The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Break presented by Miller Lite, the one and only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Today, Nick and Derek are out and about, but we got Brian Broaddus with us and the one and only Nate Newton, who's going to be joining us in some Cowboys conversation today. How are you guys doing?
I'll tell you what, I'm excited about this combination of folks here working today. I really do. Nothing against Nick and Derek. Love working with them. But I always love crossing paths with Nate on these thoughts. It's always nice to get kind of a little bit of a different opinion. And we know you're always going to give an opinion. So this ought to be a fun show today.
I'm loving it. Let's rock and roll. I'm ready to go right now. I'm excited.
Let's get started then.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to put a pause on the whole OBJ talk because we don't have any breaking news on that aspect. So we're going to pause on that. But I did want to get into the whole wide receiver. I've been seeing a lot of questions on Cowboys Break on Twitter, people tweeting and asking, why is there not much excitement about James Washington returning and coming back to the Cowboys? And we know they started their window. He's approaching his return. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys, where do you see him fitting into the wide receiver group and what the Cowboys can possibly do with a guy like him, which we have not seen basically anything from him so far?
Yeah, it was unfortunate when we were all out there in Oxnard and the injury really happened right in front of us where he gets tangled up with Diggs, I believe, and then the next thing you know, it was like the first day of practice. And he's tangled up, he's on the ground, and now they're carrying him off, and you're going, well, wow, what just happened? And then the questions start to Stephen Jones. Well, do you need to go get a receiver? Do you need this? Do you need that? He's like, no, we'll be fine. Well, they kind of knew what was going to happen with Gallup. They knew what Gallup's situation was going to be with him coming back. And so, but yeah, there's that kind of that unknown about James Washington because you felt like he was a very talented guy when he was at Pittsburgh. And then Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback, started playing poorly, started showing age, ball not going down the field. And you kind of lost James Washington then because he was a down-the-field player. He was a guy that, able to make plays, catch the ball and he'd make a play, get vertical, do all those things. And, you felt like when the Cowboys signed him that's what he was going to do. And then none of that happened. None of that. It went from being, okay, out of sight, out of mind. And then the receivers started slow. You're kind of talking about, well, let's go get Odell Beckham. Whoa, wait a minute. Like Nate and I were talking about before the show, the Odell Beckham stuff hits. Now the receivers elevate all their game. And now it's to the point where you're like, okay, to your question, where does James Washington fit? Because he doesn't play special teams. So now you're sitting there thinking, okay, are you going to dress another guy that doesn't play special teams, but can he fit it? Can he be a better Noah Brown? Can he be a better Jalen Tolbert? He's a veteran guy. He should be better than Jalen Tolbert, but can he be better than Noah Brown? That's to me where I'm at because Noah Brown still makes plays for you. We saw last week in the game, he still makes plays. So, James Washington could come in and give you a little bit of that veteran presence, make 2-3 catches a game that are like the Noah Brown catches where they end up being first downs, then I think that it was worth the wait for you to get him healthy and then get him ready to go. I never felt like that they were going to make two moves at wide receiver. I just did never feel like that. I felt like that James Washington and Odell Beckham were kind of, okay, we're going to just, we're going to carry one of these guys. And they were kind of slow playing the James Washington thing because I was hearing that he has been ready for a long time now. He's been ready to play. They were just seeing where the roster spot was going to come from there.
And see, that tells me that he's a flash guy.
Yeah.
Even when he was with Ben, at Pittsburgh. Before Ben got really old, real quick because he deteriorated real quick.
Yeah, he got old quick.
He could throw that long ball, and that was their guy. Yeah. He would show up every now and then with a big play. So I look at him as a flash guy. Can he be that flash guy for the Cowboys? I don't know. But we are set 1 through 3. Because Gallup is getting better every week. He's starting to be able to start, stop, and it's getting a little bit quicker and a little bit more explosive. And we know now all he needed was the confidence. And I think after this game, he's found a little bit more confidence. CeeDee Lamb, they've found better ways to use him and getting him in the open field so he can come in and be that third guy, third B, because Noah is going to be there. Yeah. I think Noah finally realizes this is my fit.
Right.
And when Dak can't find everything else, I'm going to be there. So I believe in rocking with what you got. And if James, I got it right?
Yeah, James Washington.
If he can force his way in there by way of making consistent, great plays for us, the first downs, I ain't talking about the long stuff now. I'm talking about first downs, then force your way in. If not, just keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Who could you utilize more on special teams? Because it gets into that conversation when you bring back a guy in, okay, who's going to be your special team guy? Because otherwise there's too many just wide receivers being activated for a game.
Yeah, and it's a great question because it's a little bit of a mess, not just at wide receiver, but Kelvin Joseph now becomes a starter at corner. And you're not going to expose one of your better special teams players to having to play those snaps. Now, back in the day, Nate's old teammate Darren Woodson would never come off the field. You would look up, he would make a tackle, and then he would force a fumble, they'd score, and then he was covering the kick. That's how you saw guys. So it's a little bit of a mess right now for Bones Fossil and what they're going to have to do to kind of replace. And if you have a bunch of guys, Tony Pollard used to be a primary special teams guy, but you use him on these offensive snaps now. So Zeke doesn't play specially. You run out there, and a lot of teams when they put their 48 out there, those receivers and linebackers and tight ends are your primary special teams players. And when you dress 4 or 5 receivers and 4 of them don't play special teams, that kind of hurts what you're doing right now. So we'll see how they maybe Noah Brown doesn't get as many snaps. I mean, Nate's talking about it the right way. He knows how to fit, but if James Washington's going to take his offensive snaps, well, that's going to put Noah Brown full time over there playing personal protector, cover the kick, be on kickoff return, all that stuff. He's going to be on all that. So, yeah, it does hurt you because they were using Jalen Tolbert a little bit on special teams, But was Jalen Tolbert showing enough to where you could take him off or do you have to keep him on? That's the juggling act that they're having to deal with right now. But, again, it hurts them a little bit because Kelvin Joseph's having to start at cornerback for you.
Nashon.
Yeah, exactly.
They have guys, special team. It takes a special guy to want to go down there and slam into guys bigger than them.
Yeah.
Or try to block a guy bigger than them, And so these guys, if they want to show this team their value so they can come up every week and be a part, this is how you do it. You got to make that sacrifice. You got to do a little extra studying.
Yeah, Jabril Cox has been inactive too, and that's a kind of a special teams guy that you can use there. So it's going to be. I think they got a little bit weaker in that area because of with how good Joseph has played.
Right.
But we'll see if the others can pick up the slack. C.J. Goodwin got hurt. And then, because he got hurt in the game last week, and all of a sudden you're sitting there, and I tweeted out that hurts the corners because they were losing corners in that game.
Right.
And Goodwin was kind of like the guy that was he was the backup, the emergency break glass guy.
Back up to the
backup, break glass in case of emergency. That's the guy you were going to go get. And people are like, he's a special teams player. I'm like, no, understand, you're running out of bodies that could play corner here right now.
Right.
When you started losing guys, when Brown and those guys started getting hurt, then you lost your emergency guy.
Yeah.
And the same way a little bit with special teams. And I think he'll be okay, but that you can't you might get away with it in a game like this against the Texans or, somebody like that. But when you play one of these games, you got to figure it out when you're playing Philadelphia or you're playing Tennessee or you're playing the Commanders. You've got to figure out, you got to make sure that special teams unit is on point, because you don't want to give up something big because you had somebody out there that wasn't doing their assignments, wasn't finishing the play, and wasn't being physical like Nate asked them to be.
Now, since we're on topic, and you've mentioned Kelvin Joseph, I'm curious to hear your opinion, Nate, because I feel like, I'm on Cowboys break, then I do the Spanish shows, and hearing other people talk about him makes me feel like, okay, am I going crazy for being this concerned about having a guy like Kelvin Joseph now being the one taking care of Anthony Brown's spot? So I want to hear your thoughts on how your expectations are with a guy like this going in there and now taking care of that side.
4 or 5 weeks ago, he went into the game. And Brian, he didn't look like he knew what was going on.
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks later, now he's in position. Now, he didn't make the play.
Yeah.
But from where he was 5 weeks ago to now he's in position, that means they've been expecting this to come. Mm-hmm. So now what he's got to do is get a little bit of extra film work. And I'm not throwing a dagger at this kid, but I'm just telling you how I feel.
Yeah.
Now football has to be number one.
There you go.
I understand you know who you are and what's your persona and what you're trying to do with your brand. But now football has to be first. Get on the film.
Yeah.
They're not going to overload him. Coach Quinn is not going to overload him. So the little bit they ask you to do, Coach Harris, the little bit he asks you to do, get on the film, be in every session, and make sure you're always talking to your safeties, because they're going to line you up and they're going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all you got to do is work your technique and work your technique.
Do you feel that this can happen in the span of a month? I mean, we're in the final stretch of the season.
You have the Texans.
Yeah.
And then you have
Jacksonville.
Now, Jacksonville's a little bit better, I think. They're an up-and-coming young team. They're fiery. But you have the Texans. You have the Collins kid, and I was asking you before the show, where's Cook?
Yeah.
You may not even have Cook.
Yeah, Brandon Cook.
Now, they don't know who their quarterback is. Mm-hmm. Man, I would be out there working my technique.
Yeah. Ambar, to your question, your concern is absolutely correct. And this is why why you should be concerned, is he has an opportunity now to be a starter.
Yes, sir.
And, this was going to be a big week. And I know it's cold and flu season. I get it. I mean, he came out of a game the other day because he got sick,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe
he was the first one to get
maybe
sick.
Maybe he has a poor immune system, and I'm not faulting him for that. But this is where you needed him to be at practice day one. This kid, so many things have gone against him, and some of this has been self-inflicted. Some of this,
and just so people know, the ones that don't really know, you're referring to he wasn't at practice yesterday because he's sick.
Yeah.
So that's 1 day less.
Yeah. So I mean, for him to be out there, I mean, this needed to be a big week for him, and let's hope today that he's out there practicing. I mean, I get it. I'm not trying to make light of a guy. Getting sick is getting sick. I get it. You fight through things. If you can't go, you can't go. You don't want to get others sick. But this was going to be a big week for him. He needed to be out there on that practice field. Because the one thing I am arguing for him and trying to give him, give him a little bit of a bump and a little bit of a push, is that there's people in this organization that went to bat for him. He didn't play a lot of football at LSU. He didn't play a lot of football at Kentucky. They drafted him in the second round because they believe in his ability. And there's times where he's shown the ability, but there's also been times where, like, again? 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 When you turn into that guy where it's like you're making a play and then you're out because you had a hamstring injury, or you're out because of this, or you're out because of that. I think Nate's absolutely right. If running the streets gets you sick, you need to be at home. You need to be at home taking care of your body if you can. And I'm just telling you, I'm not trying to be like his dad or anything like that. I'm just saying, though, he has a huge opportunity here to show this team that all the faith that they put in him, that he can reward them for their faith.
On draft night, what was the biggest issue?
It was all the off the field stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And believe me, I was an off the field guy too.
Yeah.
But when it came time to ball, you have to ball.
Yeah.
You have to equal that off the field exuberance and put it on the field. You see what I'm saying?
That's the only way you're willing to deal with it. And you're like, okay, let's deal with this guy because he can ball out.
Your concern about the player is absolutely correct. Until he proves different to you, and proves different to this front office, and they're going to keep giving him chances. But man, when he was on the injury report, and trust me, fans, I'm not busting on the guy because he got sick.
It's just bad timing.
It's just
really,
bad.
Really bad timing.
It never seems
Not
like
his fault either.
Yeah,
but.
It never seems like things just go to, okay, here we go. Here we go again. Here we go. You're always kind of waiting. What else is going to happen? But hopefully he'll be out on the practice field Thursday as we do this.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, we'll get into Houston's defense versus Cowboys offense.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Homeownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America NA, Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to the break.
Welcome back to the second segment of the break presented by Blockchain. Okay, where's the ding?
Blockchain.com. Ding!
There you go. You'll just have to start making
on it. Sorry.
All right, this is Ryan's segment where we talk about Texans defense versus Cowboys offense.
Yes.
Yesterday, we got into their offense versus Cowboys defense.
Yes.
That wasn't very promising or exciting for their side.
No.
But what do they got? There you go.
Yeah.
What do they have on defense?
Yeah, the Texans defense, it's Lovie Smith who's the head coach. It's going to be very familiar to you in a way that the scheme, the way they play their front, the way they play their coverages, it's very much like what Rod Marinelli did when he was here. It is smaller linemen, get up the field, attack gaps, try and be disruptive, slant the front one way, whether to the strength, slant it the other way. They don't want to play toe-to-toe with you. They just don't have the personnel to play toe-to-toe. When I mean toe-to-toe is hold up blocks. Like if you play the Washington Commanders, their front seven will play toe-to-toe with you. They'll hold you up. They'll extend on you. These guys want nothing to do with that. You know, they want to move. They want to be disruptive. They want to get up the field. So that's how sometimes they make plays, and then other times they get gashed for big runs. And that's been their biggest issue right now. You'll be very familiar with, they got Malik Collins, who used to be here. He's one of their defensive tackles. Jerry Hughes is a local product. He's from TCU. He's one of their defensive ends. That's kind of where they're at on their front when you watch them play. It's not a big front. It's not a physically impressive front at all. So they have some problems with that. With their linebackers, though, they're going with some young guys. They're going with a couple of rookie guys with Christian Harris and Jake Hansen. Christian Kirksey is, I think, their best linebacker. He's their middle linebacker. And so he's going to make, when that line slants and then there's a chance for a linebacker to make a play, it's generally this Christian Kirksey who they got from the Green Bay Packers. He wears number 58. So you'll probably hear his name quite a bit because he is a good tackling guy. The Cowboys have done a really good job with their 3 inside guys, with McGovern, Biotish, and Martin. When they can control the front inside 3, it's because of Biotish getting off blocks and getting up on the second level. So we'll see how he handles a good player in this Christian Kirksey. Christian Kirksey, excuse me. In the secondary, though, their number 1 pick, Derek Stingley from LSU, hasn't been playing because of a hamstring injury, and I don't think he's going to play probably this week. Desmond King, who is a veteran, who I really, really like, the Chargers drafted him several years ago out of Iowa. He's a good player. He's a guy that could play safety. He could play corner. He's a punt returner, too, and really good at it. So that might be something you have to think about going forward. But Stingley not in the lineup kind of hurts them because Stingley's capable of walking over and, say, playing against CeeDee Lamb and kind of taking him out of the game if he had to. The guy's got that kind of ability to run with, stay with, play that way. But with him being nicked up, that they're in a little bit of a bind there. I think their best secondary player is a guy named Jalen Petrie, and if you're a fan of Big 12 football from Baylor here locally, Jalen Petrie is another guy that I loved coming out of Baylor. Super tough, strong safety type of guy. He's around the ball all the time. He tackles very, very well. He's one of those guys that the ball carriers have to be mindful of when you're around him because he's a punch the ball out guy. He's a rip the ball out guy. If you hold the ball away from your body, he is going to, and he's anywhere near, he's going to be ripping at that ball or punching at that ball. He's real big on believing on trying to create those turnovers. He's a good job with his ball skills, too. He gets in position. He's had interceptions and stuff as well. So number 5, Jalen Petrie, is a guy you have to kind of watch out for. But it's a team that doesn't have a whole lot of talent on it. Again, their most talented player, I think, is Stingley, and he's hurt. So that's kind of why they're the record they are. They're 1-10-1. And they give up a lot of yards. They get put in some terrible situations because their offense isn't very good either. But, the Cowboys have, be very mindful of Kirksey and be very mindful of Jalen Petrie. I think those are their 2 best players on their defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and looking at their practice report from yesterday, they have quite a lot of guys on defense that were out and did not practice because of an injury. And you got guys mostly on the defensive line of the ball. When you look at this matchup, Nate, what would be an area that you could say, okay, and it's tough to find one, I think, because I think the Cowboys are in the upper hand here, but what would be an area if you had to pick something where the Cowboys could possibly struggle in this game?
Hughes is got 8 sacks, and I'll be weary of him. I mean, if we don't get off to a good run game and give him a chance to rush the passer, and I think he's over our right tackle. Yeah. So that is always a matchup for me because I like for our right tackle to have more run
responsibilities than pass blocks.
Yes. Yeah. And that Desmond King, I mean, when I turn on the film on defense, I like to see who pops. Yeah. Desmond King pops. Yeah. The other guys, you talk about they're steady guys. They do their job. But I try to tell people, especially around here, you can tell when your offense ain't doing very well because you'll see more defensive guys during the week beat up and out of practice. Yeah. The
Cowboys, and Nate makes great points there. I mean, he's absolutely right about that. The Cowboys have got to find a way. We all know this. When the Cowboys are balanced, when they're balanced with their scheme, when they're balanced with when Zeke has 15 carries and Pollard has 18 carries or whatever, however the balance is with that, it just kind of it helps the quarterback so much. I just don't. I think that the Texans are going to have a hard time covering Dallas's all the weapons. I mean, if they take away Lamb in this game, Gallup clearly can have a better game. Right. The tight ends can have. I mean, you've got ways of putting a lot of pressure on these Texans, and he's right about Jerry Hughes. You got to find a way to block Jerry Hughes, where you might keep a tight end in. You might, running the football at these guys. And Nate will tell you about this too. You lean on guys running the ball, and they don't want to rush the passer at the end of the day because you've been leaning on them the whole game. I kind of feel like that's what you need to do with these guys here. I think you just need – but they're going to try and angle and stunt and be on the move so big guys like Nate can't get their hands on them. That's the whole idea of playing a slant front is you just don't want somebody to go and have to block you. I mean, you want to get away from their blocks, and hopefully you guess right into tendencies of, all right, the Cowboys. But the Cowboys have done a really good job when they run the football is that it'll start to one side, and then Biotish and Martin and McGovern, they'll find a way to push everybody to one side, and then the ball cuts behind in the center, and then you got the backside cutoffs and stuff like that. And that puts a lot of pressure on a team when they're slanting. You just take them where they want to go and then take the ball behind where they're going.
This is the amazing thing I like about the young Tony Pollard. It's always when you're running, say we're running right. There's the point of attack, and then there's the first cutback. There are not many backs can get to that third one without getting the offensive line in a bad situation. Tony Pollard, and Brian, who would else be that guy that could get to that second cutback lane? That is dangerous. And that's where Tony Pollard is so sweet at. He can get point of attack and hit it 90 going north, or he can make that cut and get 6 yards, but he can get back door and take it home. Yeah, a lot of guys can't do that.
Yeah, the Cowboys have played some really good running teams.
Yes.
And, that's and you look at, they've got a guy we talked about. We talked about what the, with Pierce, the running back from the Texans. I mean, like I say, Barkley, Pierce, everybody that we've seen, it's that press, look, press again, look back, and then get it all the way back.
Yeah.
That's, I think the guy at Minnesota, same kind of running style that, that when you even though the Vikings didn't even try and run the ball that much, there's these backs that you do play. But Nate's right about Pollard. His ability, he makes these offensive linemen so much better because you don't have to hold your block forever. There's some backs you have to hold, and then Nate was talking about you get in trouble because you're holding, and now you're out of position, now you're grabbing, now you're getting called for a flag.
Right.
With Pollard, the ball is usually past that point to where you're starting to hold.
Yeah.
And that's the really good thing about it. And they should be able to run the ball on these guys just because I think that Dallas will guess right on them a couple of times and hit them on some big plays.
So between the topic of Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, where do you stand?
Both. I don't want to insult all the fantasy football players, but I don't do that sport. Yeah. I do team sport. I do true NFL football.
Yeah.
And it's a team. And for Zeke to be willing to share that and not gripe and cause problems over there because all that money he's making, love it. They are one. They are one.
That's the thing about it is I kind of look at him as, and Bobby Belt, who I work with on 105.3 The Fan, gave him the nickname Feed and Speed.
Yes.
Together,
That's good.
And so, the thing about it, I look at him as one back. 27 carries, 161 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yes.
That's how I look at him. I look at because I think the Cowboys, one of the reasons why the Cowboys are having offensive success and putting up a lot of points, it's helping the quarterback for sure, but it's putting such a burden on the defenses to have to, they're 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, and they're running the ball for 12 yards, 13 yards. And you're like, and there's only been one team that I felt like really shut them down from running the football, and that was the Commanders. But if you look at the Commanders, they've made everybody. We talk about these teams potentially in the playoffs. 49ers, Commanders, They do not let you run the football, and that's going to be a real test. I am looking forward to Tyron Smith being back, and I'm looking forward to seeing if that Commanders game at the end of the year there in Landover, Maryland, is going to be a game where the Cowboys have to win. I'm sure the Commanders are going to have to win to get in. So, but I'm really looking forward to seeing if Dallas can get back to before the playoffs running the football against that particular group. Because if you come out of that game, say you get a win and you run the ball well against that bunch, now your playoff thoughts are like, well, nobody can stop us running the football. Because I think the two best teams that you play in the NFC or could play would be the Commanders and then would be the 49ers when it comes to not letting you run the ball. Tampa, I've seen teams have some success of late against Tampa. Dallas could have ran the ball more against Tampa in week 1. They just chose not to do it. They could have – Zeke was having success running the ball. But that Commander bunch is a different group. And I with Tyron
boys.
Yeah, with Tyron Smith back in the lineup, at that point in time, if that game has to be had for both teams, I think it's going to be a really a test of wills on both sides to see, okay, we know we can run the ball, and then they're thinking, we know we could stop the run. That's where this is going to be kind of fun.
Well, let's go ahead and take our final break. When we come back, I want to get into, should Dak Prescott kind of run a little more, start running a little more, incorporating him into the running game. And also, we'll get into some O-line shuffling once Tyron Smith comes back and what that could possibly look like for the Cowboys.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field, United Ag and Turf. With John Deere Zero Turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf, for winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
This sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Homeownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to the break.
Welcome back to the third segment of the break. So we were talking about the running game for the Cowboys, and I wanted to ask you guys if you think the Cowboys should start utilizing Dak Prescott in the running game. They really haven't had the necessity to do so, but is this something that you would like to see a little bit more sprinkled in the game for, putting it out there on film and just preparing for the things that you might need to use heading into the playoffs and when you need to kind of bring out more weapons on offense?
I've always believed this right here. You use every tool that God has given you. Now, but I do believe this. His instincts used to be so good his first 3 or 4 years till he knew how to take off and get those extra 3 yards. Got injured, went through a little shady time, a little cloudy time, and he didn't run. But now it seems like he's getting back to just naturally, okay, let me take off and get this first so I can continue this drive. That'll suffice for me until we get to the playoffs. Then if we can get to the playoffs, then make that a part of your arsenal because no one is going to be ready for it. Not for that. Mm-hmm. At least I don't think.
Yeah, the new thing in the NFL is the teams that have a running quarterback. That's the devastating way of playing football now.
Yeah.
And
it takes your offense to another level.
It sure does. And and I think with Kellen Moore, I think there was a time when Dak was coming back from injury that the owner, general manager, nobody wanted Dak to run the ball at all.
Right.
They're like, listen, just fall on the ground, take a sack, whatever you have to do. But now you're starting to see them incorporate some more plays, the option play, the read option stuff that they're going to. Dak is crafty enough and a good ball handler too. The fake, sell it, and then run. There's several times where I've kind of felt like on these 3rd and 1 plays or 4th and 1, Dak could pull it and just dive forward for a first down, that kind of thing. But yeah, incorporating the running quarterback as part of your attack puts so much pressure on the defense to have to deal with that. I mean, in a couple of weeks we're going to be talking about playing the Eagles, and that's going to be at nauseum where we're like, well, Hurts can run. Well, it might even be a little bit in Jacksonville next week. We'll see with Trevor Lawrence. A guy that has a little bit, probably doesn't want to run, but can run. But if you have a quarterback that can play like that, that makes a big, big, big difference on your team.
And I'm glad we're not players because we're allowed to jump ahead. And that against an Eagles team, you need 3 yards. Go get those 3 yards. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because if they get the ball, you don't know when you're going to get it back. And that's why I've been fighting so hard on every show that I go on, time of possession. Time of possession, because if you learn how to it's not easy to go 12, 13 plays, but if you can learn how to play perfect football, what Coach Johnson used to call it, if we can play perfect football, 10 or more plays down the field, that's time of possession. That gives that beast of a defense a chance when they get out there. Even if you don't score, they are so fresh in the second half, it could be ugly.
Yeah, that's the thing about it is the playing perfect football here, like the Cowboys of the 90s that used to compete against us when I was in Green Bay, played perfect football, and they never got penalties. This team fights, even though last week was a good penalty game for them, considering who the official was. And that's something that you have to kind of always.
Let me say this right quick, like, is it really done got to depending on who the official is?
Oh, I think it has.
Let
me tell you what I know this. When you say the Cowboys are going to get better on penalties, I say no, they're not. They're not going to get better, because what happens is you can be better and more efficient. I saw it the other day.
Right.
2 days. It was 2 games ago. I saw Zach Martin pin a defensive lineman, pancake him on his back, and got called for offensive holding. Just perfect pancake block, helmet sticker, all that stuff you want to give for an award. And I saw an official call a holding penalty. And I said, okay, is that Zach Martin's fault or is that the official's fault for missing a thing? And I think you have these officials that do. I think they miss 2 to 3 calls a game.
Wow.
So you can go from being having, say, 4 penalties, 4 legitimate penalties, or 5 legitimate penalties, fine. But then you add on 3 more that they just kicked on to you because they missed the call. It does come down to these officials. It really does. And Carl Sheffers and his crew last week was one of the most penalized crews in the league. And the fact that you survived that game, only giving up, I think, 3 penalties, 2 of them were, penalties that are easy to call. But it does. It comes down. It really does come down to these guys and how they call, and guys and gals and how they call these games.
Mm.
There has, I think there is a better way, and there is money to do so. So I just don't understand why it hasn't happened where all of these calls are reviewed. And there's a quick way to do it. It's not something that it's going to delay the game long either. There's a way.
Well, that's the thing about it is, though, TV dictates so much. TV does not, even though the college game is kind of, it's romantic and you watch the rivalries. Those college football games are on for 5 hours, some of them. And and the NFL does not. The NFL wants their games to start at noon in by 3 and start the next games and then get them done by 6 and have that night game, and then that's a wrap to the day.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They do not want these games going 5 hours. They just don't. It's proven that the advertising, I mean, yeah, it's great for advertisers, I'm sure, but the NFL, it's not good for TV schedules. Because you look at other programs for years on CBS, 60 Minutes always came after the NFL game, 60 Minutes. And 60 Minutes is one of the most popular shows ever in television history.
Yeah.
And any time that NFL football bleeds into 60 Minutes, that's bad for CBS.
Yes.
They're like, wait a minute, that's one of our most popular shows for the last 40 years. We can't have it bleeding into our most popular show.
Yes, sir.
Even though football's popular on TV, they will tell you, stop that thing at 6 o'clock. Actually, they want to be off the air at 5:55. Commercials, 6 o'clock.
Hard out.
Yeah, there you go.
Hard out.
Hard out. Yeah.
All right, well, aside from penalties, there are other aspects of the game that the Cowboys are struggling with, or they should improve, I should say. And we talked about it before you hope. Yeah. We talked about it before the show, and you brought it up, Nate, is the slow starts, which we've been discussing on this. And you guys know
you hate the slow start.
Absolutely hate it. But another point that you brought up, Nate, was the interceptions. Right now, it hasn't necessarily killed the Cowboys yet, but that's all it could take for a game to really turn sideways.
Killed them in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, thoughts on these two aspects of the game? Because if you look at everything else, it seems that the Cowboys are consistently starting to improve and get better in general. But these are two things that are still happening that doesn't seem to be consistent in not doing so and just kind of improving. So what are your kind of thoughts on these two? One, Dak throwing interceptions and slow starts.
I look at winning, and the bottom line, they're 9-3. I love that. I get to brag. I'm the number 3 biggest homie besides Mr. Jones and Michael Irvin. I'm number 3. No, you can't beat me bragging. But I have to watch the game.
Yeah.
And I understand the game. And I know that what we're going for is the Eagles, being able to go through the 49ers, being able to run over Minnesota again. So if you're doing that, a slow start is not going to help you. You going on the road. I don't see the Eagles losing. I hope they do, but you going on the road.
Yeah.
So start slow in a playoff game where every play counts. Even the interception in the first quarter can count.
Yeah.
You cannot have that. You've had 5 interceptions in 6 games, or either vice versa, 6 interceptions in 5 games. You cannot have that. You should be warming up on these teams like this, getting better, enhancing who you are, because Philadelphia is. Just think, the 49ers lost 2 quarterbacks, the young stud that they thought was great and the guy that they know who is good in Garoppolo. It's not great, and they still saying this is a top 3 NFC team because of their defense, and they don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying about a slow start. At least be even or leaving in the first half. Don't be down and behind.
How can you improve in that?
Back in the day, Jimmy Johnson used to just take us out there and we'll have 4 days of hard practice. Nowadays, you have to have veteran leaders that's not going to stand for the foolishness. That they themselves, starting with Dak, is going to try to be not perfect, but let it flow, but understand what does it mean in the big picture.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks are allowed to think big picture while they focus on the small things. Wide receivers are like that. Linemen, we just got to deal with those beasts in front of us. Yeah. But everybody else can deal with this dude is not good enough. It's only 2 guys we talked about, and one of them is not playing, and Stingley, he may not play.
Yeah.
So we got Desmond King. Find a way to beat one of these dudes.
Yeah, I think that you're in a situation, too, where, and Nate's absolutely right, it seems like, though, that every time they're throwing these interceptions, they're moving the ball and they're driving to score points.
Yes.
In the playoffs, you can't. Every possession that ends in points, of course, is a good one. Field goals, touchdowns. Points are how you win these games. I'm not telling you something you already don't know, but you can't throw opportunities away. If you get 11 of them in a playoff game, if you throw one away that way you were going to score a touchdown and maybe change the direction of the trajectory of the game, that's a big, big, big play. And they're getting away with it right now.
Yeah.
They're getting away with it. But it's something, and I don't want to take away Dak's aggressiveness. I sure don't. But I also, like I say, be mindful of the situation you're in when you do get in the playoffs and you're thinking about, okay, I cannot turn the ball over here. I have got to find a way to get Brett Maher on this field to kick a field goal at worst. That needs to be the mission every time the offense takes the ball. Get Brett Maher on the field at worst. That needs to be, and I think it comes down with the play caller. It comes down to the quarterback. It comes down to the receivers, and it comes down to the line. The protection. You can't throw an interception, Dak Prescott, but I kind of understand you throwing an interception if Tyler Smith is sitting in your lap after Thibodeau has driven you into him and he can't follow through, and now the ball is going to the sideline and Gallup is not even near the ball. It's just a bad situation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors that happen. The decision by the play caller, the decision by the quarterback, the blockers, and the routes. All those have to be on the same page in the playoffs, because if they're not, then we're going to be talking about a really good regular season and, again, disappointment in the playoffs.
Well, we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. And the things, like you said, and you guys said, it's not killing them right now. It's been working out for the Cowboys, and you take every single win no matter what.
Right. There have been good teaching moments at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But those are little things that do need to be cleaned up. And as we get closer to facing the Eagles and heading into the playoffs. So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Nate, for joining us today. Brian, thank you.
Thank you.
So I forgot how Derek does the out, but whatever. For Nate Newton, Brian Broaddus, and Member Garcia, this has been, see, I picked it up there. This has been The Break on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!